kind of like give their relationship a try. A few of them, like, or one of them put in a transfer to take a sideways move to another department, so they weren't reporting to the same boss. They tried to keep everything above board. There's ways that you can make it work, but it does seem like this gentleman is...
They thought no one would notice, just a glance on the kiss cam. But within 72 hours, a secret affair exploded into blackmail, corporate threats, and a CEO on the brink of collapse. This isn't just office drama. It's a ticking time bomb that could bring down an entire company. The night was supposed to be electric Coldplay's anthems echoing through the air, fans singing along under a canopy of lights. But behind the music, a silent implosion was unfolding. Away from the stage and far from the spotlight, corporate executives shared a tense moment that said more than words ever could. As the kiss cam zeroed in, her hesitant lean met his subtle withdrawal within seconds. The internet exploded with speculation, but what the crowd saw was only the surface. According to insiders, the real chaos began hours later. At exactly 3:47 a.m., that's when Kristen Cabot, HR head at a booming tech company, reportedly initiated what would snowball into a full-scale digital catastrophe. In a matter of hours, 47 frantic text messages unraveled her emotional spiral and put the CEO of a multi-million-dollar firm on the brink of public disaster. Behind the scenes, the situation was far more layered than a missed kiss. Whispers had already been circulating about questionable management practices, shaky stock moves, and unfair employee treatment, and now, it seemed the truth was cracking through. At first glance, the footage just looked awkward. Kristen, reaching out with an uncomfortable smile. Andy Byron frozen like he'd seen something haunting. Reports quickly identified the pair. Andy Byron, the married CEO of Astronomer, a $50 million tech giant, and Kristen Cabot, his company's head of human resources and very much not his spouse. What seemed like a harmless blip on the stadium's screen suddenly took on the weight of a corporate scandal as internet sleuths began dissecting their interaction, unearthing names, roles, and past connections with startling speed. But while social media was captivated by the awkwardness, the deeper unraveling happened out of sight. Sources close to the situation claim Kristen didn't just lose control, she cracked wide open. Her texts to Andy, sent in a rapid, emotionally charged flood, were described by some insiders as dangerously close to digital blackmail. Written in real time as panic took hold, it began with a simple, haunting message. Andy, are you awake? I can't sleep. I keep replaying that moment. The way you looked at me or didn't. And from there, the spiral began. Over the next 3 hours, message after message poured in, each more desperate, more erratic, and more emotionally loaded than the last. One line reportedly struck a nerve. You can't ghost me, not after everything. Another said, I gave up everything for you. And with each text, Kristen allegedly referenced late nights, broken promises, and even hinted she had helped cover for Andy during internal investigations, a much deeper and riskier entanglement than anyone had guessed. Then came the text that shifted everything. Multiple sources claim Kristen implied she might be pregnant. No one knows for sure if it was true, but that message alone was enough to send Andy Byron into a tailspin. In that moment, the scandal escalated from personal drama to a corporate crisis requiring full-blown reputation management. Because if even a fraction of her messages were real, Kristen wasn't just lashing out, she had evidence, screenshots, receipts, and the kind of threats that could tear down an executive's career and take a company with it. For Andy Byron, this wasn't just a PR problem. It was the beginning of a battle to save everything he had built.
It seems there was some issues to do with the way that employees were treated and stocks, etc. It gets quite complicated. I'm not surprised that all this stuff is going to come out. It is probably going to get ugly.
Sources say the most unsettling part of Kristen's breakdown wasn't how often she texted, it was what she said. Just 4 minutes after her first message, she allegedly dropped a line that made the shift unmistakable. You can't ghost me, not after everything. I gave up everything for you, my marriage, my reputation, my peace of mind. You owe me a response. That wasn't just emotionally, was a warning wrapped in guilt, and according to insiders, it marked a dangerous turning point. And it didn't stop there. Kristen's messages purportedly became increasingly unhinged, each one reading like scenes from a psychological drama, unfolding in real time. By 4:23 a.m., she had sent what one insider described as a digital act of self-destruction. I protected you. I kept your secrets when the board started poking around. Don't let me burn while you save yourself. That's when Andy Byron allegedly realized this wasn't just heartbreak, it was a threat. Kristen wasn't just grieving a failed relationship, she was reminding Andy exactly how deep she was involved. Reports say she referenced hidden documents, covered emails, and sensitive intel she'd gathered as HR director. If those materials ever saw daylight, they wouldn't just dent Andy's image, they could drag the entire company into regulatory hell. By 5:15 a.m., her texts had turned sharp, resentful, and dangerous. 3 days after their infamous Coldplay concert kiss cam moment, Andy resigned. Astronomer issued a vague statement confirming an internal investigation had been launched, with more details to follow. But behind that polished PR front, chaos was brewing. "We talked about this, Andy," she allegedly wrote next. "You promised me we'd clear space in our lives. That we'd be together when the time was right." Her next texts accused him of lies, of staying in his marriage just for appearances, and telling her it was already over. Yet Andy never replied. Not once. And his silence reportedly pushed her into a new level of volatility. The final blow came at 6:33 a.m. when Kristen sent one chilling line. "If you walk away now, you're not just walking away from me, you're walking away from both of us." No proof, no details, just a whisper of pregnancy, and it worked. Sources say Andy immediately brought in a crisis PR team, called his lawyer, and blocked Kristen across every platform. But Kristen didn't stop there. She allegedly used a second phone number to reach him again, and this time, the tone was different. These weren't pleas, they were warnings. "Don't forget I covered for you when the sex came sniffing," one message read. "I have copies of everything. I know where all the bodies are buried." That's when the panic truly set in. Because Kristen wasn't bluffing. She had worked in HR for nearly a decade, with full access to confidential records, sensitive memos, and damning conversations. Insiders now believe she had quietly saved everything from private Slack messages about hiring scandals to emails regarding shady stock options. And she wasn't just holding on to the information, she was allegedly preparing to use it. As Kristen's meltdown went nuclear, the outside world finally caught wind. At 10:08 a.m., Entertainment Tonight dropped the bombshell. Kristen had been spotted outside her New Hampshire home, watering plants in an oversized cardigan and a messy bonus, if nothing had happened. But what viewers noticed wasn't the outfit, it was her hand. The wedding ring she'd worn for 15 years was gone. The internet crowned her the queen of corporate self-destruction, and TikTok wasted no time, dubbing her the garden snake, a nickname poking at both her betrayal and her sudden Zen gardening habits. Yet beneath the memes, a darker narrative was emerging. Kristen wasn't just a viral punchline, she was becoming a legal threat. Experts told Business Insider that if she really had access to protected documents and was threatening to expose them, she could be facing serious legal heat herself. Meanwhile, Andy's wife, Meghan Carrion, was making moves of her own. Insiders say she'd suspected the affair for months, and the kiss cam simply confirmed what she already knew. Hours after the footage went viral, Meghan reportedly posted an Instagram story that read, "Sometimes the real snake smiles in your face and sits in your husband's office." Subtle. Not exactly effective. Absolutely. But Meghan wasn't melting down, she was planning. While Kristen allegedly juggled burner phones and garden hoses, Andy Byron was scrambling. Sources confirm that just hours after Kristen's final text blitz, Andy retained a legal team and a crisis PR firm known for cleaning up political affairs and celebrity implosions. His instruction: clean the slate, shut it all down, and make sure Kristen never worked in a boardroom again. But insiders say it was already too late. Kristen was reportedly assembling a full-blown dossier. And not just any folder, this one allegedly contained the company's darkest secrets. Documents tied to suspicious layoffs, incriminating emails, and Slack chats that could be interpreted as retaliation against whistleblowers. One executive described it as HR's nuclear football. If leaked, it wouldn't just ruin Andy, it could upend the entire company. And sources say Kristen was already hinting at dropping that dossier to the media. What started as a viral kiss cam moment might end up being the match that lights the biggest corporate firestorm of the year. Inside Astronomer, panic was spreading fast. Senior staff reportedly started lawyering up, not because they were directly involved, but because Kristen's alleged screenshots named names. Some feared they could be dragged into a cover-up or implicated in retaliation schemes. No lawsuits had hit yet, but one executive summed it up perfectly: "The building isn't on fire, but we can smell the smoke." Kristen, meanwhile, became internet infamy incarnate. Memes flooded timelines, influencers dissected her texts, and YouTubers dropped exposes with titles like HR Gone Wild and texts that killed a career. But beneath the viral chaos, a bigger question emerged: was she falling apart? Or playing a long game? Insiders close to her say she's far from finished. She still thinks she's in control, one source revealed. She's not hiding, she's regrouping. If that's true, then this scandal isn't over. It's only the first act. Because by the end of the 72-hour firestorm, Kristen Kitt was exiled from the corporate world and Andy Byron was in full-blown crisis mode. His LinkedIn scrubbed, his calendar wiped, emails rerouted to legal, and now, working remotely under personal leave, hoping to contain a mess that may be beyond repair. But the real threat may no longer be public image, it's regulatory. If Kristen delivers the receipts she claims to have, agencies like the SEC and the Labor Board could get involved. And that's before the lawsuits from shareholders even begin. Meanwhile, Kristen's tone has reportedly shifted again from chaotic to calculated. One message from yet another number read, "You don't just cut off someone who protected your company. If you want peace, you'll need to offer it." That line didn't sound like heartbreak, it read more like a power play. Sources believe Kristen may no longer be begging for answers. She's negotiating, and though no formal settlement has been confirmed, whispers inside the corporate world suggest she could be angling for a payout. Hush money, exchanged for silence, and the fate of an entire leadership team may hinge on whether she accepts it or detonates. What's clear now is that Kristen knows the value of what she holds, and she's done pretending otherwise. Gone are the days of desperate midnight texts and shattered emotions. In their place is something colder, sharper, and more calculating. Kristen isn't in free fall anymore, she's in negotiation. Every word she writes now seems less like a cry for help and more like a chess move. And if insiders are correct, she's already making her demands. According to those familiar with the situation, Kristen may be quietly positioning herself for a settlement, what some are already calling golden silence, the kind of arrangement where non-disclosure agreements are signed, reputations are preserved, and messy truths never see the light of a courtroom. In other words, hush money. Whether such a deal will be offered or accepted remains to be seen, but what's certain is that the company has much more to lose if she goes public than she does, and Kristen knows that. She's not bluffing, she doesn't have to. The media has started to take notice. In the early hours of the scandal, the internet treated her like a punchline. Memes labeled her everything from Herzilla to the garden snake, mocking her breakdown and watering can photo op like a modern Shakespearean farce. But the tone is shifting. What was once comic relief is now a full-blown media narrative. TikTok, YouTube, and Reddit are flooded with dramatic reenactments, commentary threads, and speculation videos analyzing every screenshot, every facial expression, every legal implication. This isn't just tea anymore, it's a ticking time bomb. Major media outlets are following suit. What started as gossip fodder has begun to cross over into serious coverage. Outlets like Business Insider and Forbes are now investigating potential SEC violations, misuse of HR power, and the ethics of CEO HR entanglements. Kristen's story, once seen as a viral spiral, is now being reframed as a complex intersection of personal betrayal, workplace exploitation, and corporate governance failure. The public is watching this saga unfold in real time, but behind the scenes, industry insiders are getting nervous. Several corporate leaders and HR professionals have spoken off record about the terrifying precedent this case could set. One former executive remarked, "If what Kristen has is real, those files, those emails, those conversations, then this is more than a scandal. This is a blueprint for how internal power can be weaponized." Because make no mistake, this isn't just about a kiss cam anymore. It's about trust. It's about who controls sensitive information inside companies. What happens when that control slips? Kristen had access to the beating heart of astronomers' inner workings, salary details, performance reviews, compliance concerns, complaints, executive decisions, and based on multiple reports, she didn't just observe them, she kept receipts, quietly, methodically. For years, the concept of emotional blackmail is now being debated across legal and ethical forums. Some argue Kristen crossed a line. Others say she's using the only leverage women in her position often have: the truth. In a corporate world that still overwhelmingly favors male leadership, where whistleblowers are often labeled unstable or vindictive, Kristen's strategy, flawed as it may be, forcing a conversation that many companies hoped to avoid. What happens when HR becomes both the protector and the threat? When the guardian of compliance becomes the one holding the match over the kindling? It's a paradox that's now being examined in business schools and leadership circles. Because HR departments are supposed to be neutral, serving both employee welfare and company integrity. But Kristen Cabot's story challenges that ideal. It asks, what if HR isn't neutral? What if HR is loyal to one man? What if HR has something to lose? The implications are profound. If Kristen's allegations are validated or, even partially true, they could open the door to regulatory probes, not just at Astronomer, but across the entire tech sector. Already, whispers of similar HR executive entanglements are surfacing anonymously on forums like Blind and Fishbowl. Employees from other companies are beginning to ask hard questions about accountability, boundaries, and the silent influence of personal relationships on professional outcomes. Meanwhile, legal experts are split. Some believe Kristen could be vulnerable to defamation or breach of contract lawsuits, especially if she signed any confidentiality agreements during her employment. But others argue that if her communications point to genuine misconduct, retaliation, or corporate cover-ups, she may be protected under whistleblower laws. Either way, the stage is being set for a complex legal chess match where both players have everything to lose. Andy Byron, once a respected CEO, is now operating under complete lockdown. His public presence has all but vanished. His LinkedIn profile has been scrubbed. His speaking engagements cancelled. Internal communications at Astronomer are reportedly being rerouted through legal counsel. And several executives have entered what one insider called defensive mode. No one is speaking publicly, and every internal memo is reportedly being drafted with the assumption that it could be subpoenaed. The stakes enormous. Astronomer's next investor call has already been postponed, and whispers of boardroom reshuffling are growing louder. Shareholder confidence has taken a hit, and while no stock crash has occurred yet, analysts warn that even one leaked document could change everything. This is one of those moments, said a venture capital partner on Background, where silence becomes scarier than truth. Because if Kristen's sitting on what we think she is, this could get federal. And yet, even amid all this chaos, a question keeps surfacing. Is Kristen spiraling, or is she playing chess? The shift in her communications suggests something intentional, calculated. One recent message, reportedly sent from yet another new number, read simply, "You don't just cut off someone who protected your company." It wasn't panicked. It wasn't emotional. It was strategic. According to sources in her inner circle, Kristen isn't just waiting to be cancelled. She's preparing. They say she's consulting lawyers, exploring media options, and even considering publishing an anonymous exposé on the corporate dysfunction she allegedly witnessed. Some insiders believe she's already leaked redacted files to a journalist, though this remains unconfirmed. But what is confirmed is that her silence is no longer free, and her next move could be catastrophic for Astronomer's future. In the end, this story may come to symbolize something far bigger than one messy affair. It may become the cautionary tale of what happens when corporate culture turns a blind eye to internal intimacy, when oversight is blurred by ego, and when the very people entrusted with protecting a company become its greatest threat. Because Kristen Cabot is no longer just a woman at the center of a viral scandal. She's become a symbol of risk, of leverage, of a system that underestimated her until it was too late. And if her dossier is real, if the rumors are true, then what started with a kiss cam may not end with a meme but with subpoenas, resignations, and a crash course in corporate accountability that will echo far beyond one company, one scandal, or one broken promise.